launching 2 years ago, I think it is now, so I think there's 3 more years to run, where the focus called PRI Advanced, it was focused explicitly on renewable energy, power generation, but then also the EV supply chain, where globally, both institutional investors and local investors were pairing to go and talk to companies. I stand to be corrected, maybe 41, 52 companies, something in that range, that were a 5-year engagement to say, what are you doing? How's it getting better this year? What is the community telling you about what's happening inside the fence and outside the fence?
Hello. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you very much for the presentation. It's incredibly insightful, a lot of really good information. I'm RJ Mangan. I'm the Director of Peace and Justice with Catholic Charities, Diocese of Youngstown, Ohio. So my wheelhouse is Catholic social teaching, and one of the big things that comes up is the option for the poor and the vulnerable. And that seems to be a really critical issue when we're talking about enforcing EV requirements, right? That making people purchase electric vehicles in order to have one. When we consider currently the prohibitive price of electric vehicles for a vast majority of people, in addition to the lack of public transit, we find ourselves in a difficult position where we want to push for electric vehicles, but we have to keep in mind those of us who, in so much of America, you can't travel anywhere unless you have a car. You simply cannot be an independent free adult unless you have a vehicle in this country. And so one of the recommendations that I've seen get brought up is a stopgap measure of pushing for diesel electric transmissions as a hybrid due to the improvement of diesel particulate filters, bringing some, as some of them claim, now granted these are from, I'm always going to take what the engine manufacturers are saying with a grain of salt. But, working towards net zero, like trying to push as close as possible to net zero for those diesel electric engines, would you view that as something that could possibly be a successful, I guess, stopgap in between moving from full fuel vehicles to fully electric vehicles? Thank you.
Thoughts?
I don't know anything about that diesel type, but I do believe in stopgap measures, yes, because if we can help, since you're right about transit, there is a huge push for electric transit. It's going to happen because those routes are predictable. And whenever you have a predictable route, EV is an awesome answer. And we actually, my company makes these, we work with bus manufacturers like New Flyer, Bluebird. Those bus manufacturers, they work with a type of pantograph charging system that when you go in your route, in different parts of the route, there's a way for the pantograph to come down on the bus when the driver goes out and goes to the restroom, comes back, it's charged automatically, and you go on your route. If this is a very, very simple solution, it just needs to happen, like you're saying, if people are willing to use the bus system. This is a good solution. However, like you said, everybody in the US, that is a mindset. You have a car. And yeah, I mean, if they're I believe in the hybrids for right now because we need to get moving in some way towards net zero. And if there's going to be a ramp up in a certain way, we need to go with whatever alternative fuel mechanism we can. I agree with you. But I don't know much about it. I hear the word diesel and I'm like, but I get it.
So can I offer a quick response? Very quick. So diesel electric, that's what locomotives are pulling trains across the country. So we have that technology. That's decades old technology in a way. Yeah. So secondly, so there was a lot in your question actually, because if you pull the variety of threads. So I'm from South Africa, for example. Driving your own car has been marketed to establish your class, right? So it's hard to date someone on a motorbike. Trust me, I tried it as a law student. It's hard. And so, but my counter to that thinking is, remember, we're not doing this for giggles, right? We're doing it because we've overheated our planet and crushing nature and changing local weather systems, and trouble is happening, and we've crossed 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries, and we can't even talk about tipping points and changes in the North Atlantic. So we're not doing this just because everyone's bored, right? So there's that, and in terms of, so what is the rest of the world going to be doing? And that's why there was a critical point that Professor Mann yesterday made, and again, I encourage you to listen to his lecture that he offered. He said, the US is the dominant legacy fossil fuel creator, a pollution a problem creator, right? Sadly, today, US is also the major oil and gas producer on the planet. So it's awkward sitting here as I am as a guest, as a green card holder, as an alien. You know, I love my favorite Americans, but we have a problem, right? And there's different peoples up and down the stack in different geographies looking at saying, hey, what's my part in creating the problem? And what's my part in coming to fix this problem? So for me, there'll be important other aspects to bring to that important question. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham.
We just have, I think, one more question, time for one more.
Hello, I have a million questions. I worked at Ford Motor Company on the EV sector for about 6 years as an engineer, and then I shifted over to a nonprofit called Volt Solar, and we engage in regulatory cases such as rate cases and fighting to close coal plants, and on behalf of the environmental justice community. So I'm like, I can go anywhere with this. I think my question...
You should be up here.
My question for you all, I know that despite the influx of money from the federal government to enact all of these changes, a lot of the work is being done in the state level, either state regulatory, state legislature. I was wondering if you could give any examples of maybe some successful or potentially good examples, if you follow some of the states throughout the country, if there's any good examples of, say, EV policies or clean energy policies that's being enacted or being passed right now.
That's a really tough question, being in Pennsylvania, where natural gas and fracking is very popular. I mean, even today, before I came here, I was reading about how it's up for question about getting people into utility programs, that legislation is being revisited. So I will say nothing is immediately coming to mind. You know, we can't get Reggie passed, we can't get whole home repairs passed so that buildings are more efficient, regardless of whether you're, you know, powering your house through gas or electric. I might have to sit and mull that over while my other speakers address it, but Pennsylvania, we are not leading by example.
I can say I've been working, I live in Washington, D.C., but I do a lot of my work out in California, because there is a lot happening there. They're really going after this in a big way. It's very different. I mean, it's a requirement in a way, and so they're going after it in a big way, both in terms of airports, in transit, in passenger vehicles, because you have CPOs, those charge point operators, working all across many different ones, and along with the utilities. The big key piece of this is the utilities. Collaboration with the utilities is key, and they're all in, because utilities are incentivized as well through IRA to electrify their fleets as well. And SCE, the Southern Cal Edison, as well as PG&E, that's Pacific Gas Electric, they have already started electrifying their fleets in a big way. So if they're taking advantage of the rules, then they're really going after it. A big issue there is they're worried about brownouts, because there's such demand for the electrons from everybody. So that's where we're seeing more microgrid. I just sold this microgrid solution there in SoCal. It's now becoming required. It's called Load Control Management System, or monitoring system. So basically what they're doing is exactly that, managing all the loads from the grid. So they're doing it successfully, they're talking to industry, they're really in on the game. I see them at conferences, the same people I talk to, they're in with, paying attention to what industry's doing. And I think that's key. That's collaboration, Maximus. So I'm seeing them doing a great job. I hope they start, and I think New York is going to be next. Texas is definitely, there's a lot going on in Texas. You watch. It's going to be another one.
Yeah, Texas is interesting.
Very interesting.
I did think of one bright light, but there was something you said that I was thinking of too. Well, anyway, the bright light, we do have something in Pennsylvania, the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act. I will say that, in this area, buildings are about 70% responsible for carbon emissions, so our office focuses a lot more on buildings than we do directly in our office on transportation. We look to other offices to really move the needle on transportation. But the Guaranteed Energy Savings Act, we've been using that to convert our municipal street lights from high-pressure sodium to LED. We did a huge retrofit for the Philadelphia Museum of Art. We're about to do it for our quadplex municipal buildings and homeless shelters. And essentially, the energy improvements that you make to the building will pay over time for those. So it's like the savings are paying for the improvements. And so that's been really huge and a great tool for us through that state legislation.
Thank you, Liz. I think with that, we will close the panel, and I want to thank our panelists. Obviously, I hope you all learned as much as I did from listening to their expert comments. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.